Hey, what's up everyone? The biggest Overlord nerd in the universe is back again today to answer more of your burning questions about the Overlord anime. Yes, I know it's been a while since we had a video. If you saw in a post I made a few weeks ago, I have had to dedicate pretty much all of my free time to studying, unfortunately. It's just one of those things you gotta do, guys. I did want to let you guys know that the prep work for Sacred Kingdom Part 5 cut content is done. I've already gone through the portion of the light novel that I want to cover in that video, so we should be getting that out very shortly, hopefully. Another thing I wanted to let you guys know about is I actually started reading the Tensura light novel. But yeah, I recently binged season 3 of Tensura, and I forgot how awesome that show is. And I heard an announcement that season 4 is not coming out till 2026. And I was like, yeah, I'm not waiting for that. So I just decided I'm going to start reading the light novels. There's one thing I did want to say, and I guess I hadn't seen the art in these books before. Is it me or does everyone look like super skinny? Am I imagining that? Maybe it's just because I'm a fat American, but I swear, like the light novel drawings, everyone looks like super skinny. I don't know. So maybe that's something I can make some videos on in the future if you guys would like it. I mean, a new thing. I'm sure a lot of people that like Overlord also like Tensura, so maybe that's something you guys would be interested in. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this round of Q&A questions. Very excited to dig into some of these. So first off, I have two super thankers, one that didn't ask a question and one that did. Big shout out to Mateo CR1191 for the 20 euros. Thank you from the European Union. I really appreciate that donation. And then we have Jacob Swenson 8607 with $5. Thank you so much for that donation. And they ask, just how much impact do players' races factor into their personality, decision making, and morality upon transportation to the new world? There's like 5 parts to this question, so I won't read the whole thing, but basically the big theme of the question is what forms the personality of the people that come to the new world from Yggdrasil. So as far as the NPCs are concerned, I believe the way it was described in the light novel is that their thought processes and their personalities, the baseline of that stuff comes from their programming. So their lore and things that are written down by their creators. And then for all the other like situations or cases that their programming doesn't like specifically dictate, the blanks are filled in by mimicking the personalities of their creators. This is pretty early on where this was established. I think Ainz maybe said something about it. That is my understanding for the NPCs. Now, as far as players, we only really have Ainz to look at for that. His personality is definitely affected by his race. It is very, very clearly stated in the Overlord light novel that him being an undead is affecting his emotions, it's affecting how he's viewing the world, and if it affects how he thinks about things, that the fact that he is now not human has changed him. This is one of the big themes of Overlord. However, unlike the NPCs, he's not following any sort of like dictated programming because he was an actual real person before he came over to the new world. And actually, that's my theory as for why NPCs can't level up in the new world versus like why players can, is because players were actually living people before they were transported to the new world, and the NPCs were not. And as far as karma is concerned, I think their karma values dictate really just their general way of thinking and their general like kind of morality. I think that's what I think karma has to do with it. It makes their way of thinking a little more predetermined based on their karma values. That's what I think. So a very interesting question about something pretty deep, Ainz's mental state, like how that has changed since he's become a non-human. Very interesting question. Thank you for it. Oh, good one here. Quick question. What would be the difference between World Champion and World Disaster classes, and which would be stronger than the other? Very, very good question. Okay, so let's start with the one that I think less people would know about, and that's World Disaster. World Disaster was a specialized DPS mage class. One of the members of Ainz Gone, Olbert, was a World Disaster class. And what the World Disaster basically was it was a glass cannon magic class. Like it could just do huge, ridiculous amounts of damage, but it wasn't very sustainable. The way Maruyama described it was basically, it's not a class you would want to be if you're a solo person, because if you don't kill your enemy like really fast, you won't win. Basically like a multi-target specialized high DPS class, and the spells just burn through mana, so you need support from other people in order to like compensate for that weakness. Olbert was considered the strongest mage in Ainz Gone, and I think that the fact that he was a World Disaster class has something to do with that. What the World Champion class is the strongest warrior class in Yggdrasil, and the only way you could get a World Champion class is by winning a developer sanctioned tournament. tournament in one of the 9 worlds of Yggdrasil. One of the big things about the World Champion class is it allows the user to access a skill called World Break. Basically, imagine Reality Slash that you see Ainz use in the series. Imagine that, but like on steroids. That's what World Break is. As for which one is stronger, I'm probably gonna have to go with World Champion. World Disaster is highly specialized for one. Maruyama said himself that like it's not a good class for 1v1s. Number 2 is that Ainz said that Touch Me was the strongest player in all of Yggdrasil, and like I mean that really goes to show you how strong World Champion is. Not to mention the requirements for getting World Champion are very, very strict. You can kind of view World Disaster as the mage version of World Champion. In my opinion, I think 9 times out of 10 World Champions would probably win against World Disasters. It's hard to compare them though because one's a warrior class and one is a mage class, so it's kind of like, you know, there's different situations and all of that. Also, like, we don't know how they would be like in a real world setting because it was all in the game and stuff, so I mean, who knows? That's kind of like up in the air as far as like a real fight is concerned. Overall, I would say it's probably more likely that the World Champion is stronger, but they're still both very, very strong. I want to make that clear. Ooh, this one is on my World of 2138 video. Is Azuz's power suit based on Aberrage Mecha Suits 2, the one he wore in Season 4 of Overlord? The power suit was an item from Yggdrasil that the Yggdrasil devs developed because mecha games were very popular at the time when it was like during Yggdrasil's lifespan, mecha games were super popular, so they wanted to kind of draw people in from that fan base, so they designed a mecha suit item in order to appeal to those people. I don't think it's based on the ones in Aberrage, because in Aberrage, like, that was like the whole point of the game was to design a mecha suit, whereas like the power suit, which is what we see in Overlord, that was just an item you can equip. And it kind of like gave you enhancements and stuff like that. It wasn't considered like a fantastic item by Ainz, but some of them were like pretty useful for like underleveled players. I don't think they're based on the Aberrage ones, but they were definitely used as like kind of a way to pull people from games like Aberrage into Yggdrasil because mecha games were super popular. If I'm remembering correctly, Maruyama based Overlord on his D&D campaign where all the other players eventually left. Do you have much experience with tabletop games? You look like a Warhammer fan, or not really. I don't really know how to take that. I don't know what looking like a Warhammer fan means. But as for the first part of your question, yes, I do believe that it was said by Maruyama that like the story was inspired by like how him and his friends used to play a lot of tabletop games, and then eventually they all kind of fell out about it. That was the inspiration for Ainz's character, I believe. From what I've heard, the game Yggdrasil itself is very, very clearly borrowing systems from D&D. That's what people have told me that play D&D. I do not play D&D. I know nothing about D&D. That's just what people have told me though, is that magic in Yggdrasil is basically exactly the same as it is in D&D. Very clearly, Yggdrasil is D&D derivative. The story itself isn't based on a D&D campaign, I don't believe, but the Yggdrasil itself is D&D based, and then the background of Ainz and like him being in a guild and all of them leaving the game and stuff like that, that's based on an experience that Maruyama himself had. As for whether or not I play tabletop games, because apparently I look like a Warhammer fan, whatever that means, but no, I play no tabletop games whatsoever. I've never played D&D, I have never played any of the other tabletops. I know there's like a Cyberpunk one that was like the original, and I'm not saying I wouldn't enjoy playing them because I've heard they're really fun, but I just have never had a chance to play them. So yeah, I can't be into something that I've never tried. So thanks for asking that though. If there was a Continental War and Nazarick was never summoned, which nation do you think would win in a Continental War? An answer for nations we see / hear in the anime and then in the light novel. Okay, so to address the second part of your question, the nations in the light novel and the anime are the same. There's more nations that are mentioned in the light novel for sure. We do get more information on them, but as for like detailed military stuff, we barely have any more in the light novel than we do in the anime. So I don't think there's a difference in answer between one or the other. As for who I think would win, based on the countries that we actually know enough about to like make an educated guess, like I'm not including the Troll Kingdom because we don't know shit about anyone there. I'm not gonna include the Great Minotaur Nation because we don't know anything going on there. There's tons of other nations that we do know the names of, and we know like, oh, there's trolls that live in this kingdom or whatever, but we don't know how strong they are. We don't know what trump cards they have. We don't know anything about that. So I'm excluding those people or those countries from the calculation here. So just kind of throwing all the ones we do know enough about, to make a judgment about, into a box and saying who's going to win this fight, it probably will come down between the Slain Theocracy and the Argolin Council State. I would probably go with the Argolin Council State purely because of PDL. So actually, maybe this does count as non-anime because the Argolin Council State is never talked about in the anime, but it exists in the anime, so it applies. It's just never been talked about in the anime. The Argolin Council State is a demi-human nation to the north of the Riestes Kingdom, and it is ruled by a council of 5 dragons. And Platinum Dragon Lord is like the leading dragon on this council. And we do know that the Slain Theocracy is very afraid of PDL. During the meeting with the Cardinals in Volume 10, I believe, they basically said that PDL would probably be capable of destroying the Slain Theocracy by himself. And also in Volume 16, when Zeshi was sent out to help deal with the Elf Kingdom, they were worried to send Zeshi out because they were worried that would expose her to PDL, and PDL would take that chance to kill her. And so they're afraid that their strongest person is going to be killed by PDL, therefore implying that PDL is stronger. So for that reason, I would probably go with the Argolin Council State, purely for the existence of PDL and nothing else. Because that's pretty much all we know about the Argolin Council State, is that it's led by 5 dragons and PDL is on this council. And that's pretty much all we need to know in order to conclude that the Argolin Council State would win, because PDL is that powerful next to other New World people. That's just how strong he is. If you want to exclude the Argolin Council State because it's never been mentioned in the anime, it would easily be the Slain Theocracy, because Zeshi's level 88, so she's freaking crazy strong. If we take true Dragon Lords out of the equation, Zeshi is beating any New Worlder, I think, so there's that. Is the goal of all life is death insta-kill spell in itself, or is it like a buff for the next insta-kill spell you cast? So actually, there was a video where I explained very in depth on how the goal of all life is death works, the mechanics around it. I'll leave a link to that if you want to check out that information, but I'll give a brief synopsis here. So the goal of all life is death is not a spell, it is a skill, and my understanding of it is it's a modifier for insta-death spells. You activate the goal of all life is death, you cast an insta-death spell, the activation is delayed by 12 seconds. So that was the clock that we see in the background when Ainz uses it in the anime, and then it counts down, and that triggers the spell and the skill together. Basically makes it so that the insta-death spell will bypass any resistance or immunity and will kill the target. So what we see in the anime is he activates the goal of all life is death, and then he uses Cry of the Banshee, which, you know, has this big, huge effect because he used Widen magic on it. And then we see the clock count down, and then as soon as it hits 12, everything that was in the radius of that spell dies after that. That's the goal of all life is death. It is basically a skill modifier for insta-death spells. It's not one in itself. So you have to have an insta-death spell to use to apply the goal of all life is death to. I hope that makes sense. It's a tad bit confusing, and it's kind of hard to figure out just from the images that happen in the anime itself. Very, very valid question here. I was just rewatching the anime. In episode 13 of season 2, I'm confused by Brain seemingly knowing Shalltear when she was disguised. That scene felt like it was missing context or something. Your concern is valid because there's so many scenes in the Overlord anime that are missing context from the light novel, so that is totally warranted. But in this scene, I think it was just Brain, he was just sensing Shalltear. Like he was so traumatized by his past experience with Shalltear in Volume 3, even though her appearance was different and she was like masking herself, he just knew it was her. Actually, I'm gonna get my copy of Volume 6, one second. Okay, I'll read the passage that correlates to this scene in the anime from the light novel. Even discounting the strangeness of the white mask covering her face, her figure was remarkably mysterious, sparkling ominously in the light of the curtain of fire behind them. Her ostentatious appearance combined with her faint presence made her seem to have slipped out of some spirit world. Her outfit, the color of her hair, and the way she talked weren't the same at all. If the girl back then was born of darkness, this one had come floating down from the moon. Still, this one had to be the same one. The figure burned into Brain's memory, overlapped with the one before his eyes. He was sure of it. He knew the face beneath that girl's mask was that of the monster Shalltear Bloodfallen. So yeah, in the light novel too, there's no like, oh, he deduced from this and this and this that it was Shalltear. There's no like real like logical explanation for it. He just knows. Even though she has gone to great lengths to alter her appearance, he still knows it's her just from like the vibe she's giving off, I guess, or something like that. It's a sixth sense thing. So actually you weren't missing any contents in the light novel. He knew it was Shalltear, he just knew. That was it. I do understand understand your concerns, because if you just look at the scene itself, it does seem like something's cut out, so I don't blame you for thinking that. But yeah, no, the only thing that's really missing from the anime is Brain's internal thought process on how he just knows it's Shalltear. But a very good question about a very common problem in the Overlord anime. So guys, I think we're gonna leave off there. Another great round of questions. The next video I'm gonna put out is gonna be the next part of the Sacred Kingdom cut content. We're getting into some really good stuff in this part of the story, so I can't wait to do it. As always, guys, I appreciate the great questions, and I appreciate that you guys like hearing answers and want to know more about the Overlord world and story. It's always fun to talk about this stuff. So guys, if you have any more questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below, or if you have anything to build on the answers I gave, I would love to hear that as well. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, please hit that like button to let me know. And if you aren't already, please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out more than you know, and it'll let you know when I post in the future. With that being said, I want to thank you all for watching to the very end of the video, and I will see you all next time. Bye.